Today's video is about a case you may have heard about or read about. The Broadview Six is what the press are calling 6 defendants who were indicted for impeding federal immigration enforcement in Broadview, Illinois. Now, they were indicted 6 months ago, and a few days ago, the U.S. Attorney in Chicago agreed to dismiss the case against all 6 defendants with prejudice. Now, even the misdemeanor charges were dropped. Why? Because of alleged misconduct by prosecutors before the grand jury. Now, there is video footage of the Broadview Six in which the actions of the defendants clearly meet the definition of the felonies for which they were indicted: conspiracy and impeding a federal officer. Now, the conduct occurred during an anti-ICE protest. Now, protesters surrounded a plainclothes ICE officer in a government vehicle and physically blocked the car from going into an ICE facility. Now, here's some of that video footage.
The Broadview ICE facility has been the place of protest for many politicians running for public office, including progressive congressional candidate Kat Abu-Ghazala. Seen here in braids, she and 5 others have been indicted with a series of felonies related to a protest where she allegedly, quote, banged aggressively and pushed an ICE agent's vehicle.
Okay, so the conduct meets the definition of the criminal statutes that were violated, but apparently the lead prosecutor thought it was too tough to get an indictment, despite the existence of this type of video footage. So the prosecutors did the wrong thing. They committed alleged misconduct to try to get the indictment, and they did get the indictment, but it was through the alleged misconduct. Now, my caveat here is that I haven't read the grand jury transcript myself. It's not been released to the public and won't be, as far as I'm aware. Now, what the court did was release a transcript of the hearing before the judge, who did review the grand jury transcript herself and found egregious misconduct. So we're taking the judge's word for it. The judge is April Perry, a Biden appointee. Now, the judge has lifetime tenure during good conduct, as all federal judges do, so she should be neutral in the case, and it would be inappropriate to accuse her of being partisan without evidence. And here we have no evidence of partisanship because no grand jury transcript was released publicly that blatantly contradicts the judge's description of alleged misconduct by prosecutors. Now, unless there's a huge demand for release of the grand jury transcript to the public, in which case maybe the Chicago Sun-Times could file a motion for its release, or the Chicago Tribune. But if that doesn't occur, the grand jury transcript is unlikely to be released publicly. Now, my comment here is that if there were a genuine controversy about the judge's characterization that the prosecutors committed misconduct, the DOJ wouldn't have agreed to dismiss the indictment with prejudice, which they did. So that's an indication to all of us that the DOJ agrees with the judge's assessment that prosecutorial misconduct did occur before the grand jury. Now, the types of prosecutorial misconduct alleged are the following. First, the lead prosecutor, Sheri Mecklenburg, allegedly personally vouched for the charges, putting her personal trustworthiness and credibility on the line. I mean, she did that instead of just presenting the evidence. Now, second, improper prosecutorial communications occurred of a substantive nature with grand jurors outside the grand jury room. That's prohibited. Third, the prosecutor excused grand jurors from deliberations if they disagreed with the government's case. Now, with that last one, I was like, whoa. Apparently what the prosecutor told the grand jurors is, if your mind is made up against the government, you're excused. Now, that is misconduct. Now, I haven't read the grand jury transcript myself, as I mentioned, but if that's in there, it's bad, very bad. Now, when grand jurors refuse to indict, it's because they're not seeing the evidence in the same way that the prosecutor does, obviously. And whose fault is that? The prosecution is presenting the evidence. And here, there's even video footage. Now, if the grand jury refuses to indict on the videos, the case can be resubmitted, potentially with an expert witness such as a law professor. However, if the grand jury still refuses to indict on video footage and an expert witness law professor explaining the law, then maybe the prosecutors have done all that they can do. So, at that point, they need to detach. Don't take it so personally, and they need to be on their best behavior ethically so that they can live to fight another day, so to speak. Now, this group of prosecutors regrettably failed to manage their emotions and lost sight of what it is that they're supposed to be fighting for. But the fallout continues. The lead prosecutor, Sheri Mecklenburg, had moved on from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Chicago. She had been detailed as the DOJ's counsel to the Senate Judiciary Committee and was working in Washington, D.C. Well, the ranking Democrat, Dick Durbin of Illinois, just released her from that detail when the alleged misconduct came to light. Now, she's still employed by the DOJ, but no longer assigned to the Senate Judiciary Committee. And the defense attorneys aren't done with her. They'll be seeking sanctions against the prosecution for prosecutorial misconduct, and they'll probably get those sanctions, despite the fact that the cases were dismissed for technical reasons and not because their clients are actually innocent. For example, if a defendant is indicted for murder, let's say, but someone else is the murderer, that's actual innocence. And that's not what we have here. So the defense attorneys are walking on air right now, but they need to be cautious. The dismissals weren't based on actual innocence, and the judge is very much aware of that. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.